Hi everyone, and hashtag Be1 Less News, hashtag Hear Us, hashtag CDC Whistleblower, and say hello to Timothy Welsh at Tanner's Dad. Tim, can you say hi?
Hello everybody. Hello everybody.
Hello everybody, and I'm sitting here at the home of Wendy Silvers, who is Million Mamas Movement, and just recently I've seen some buzz about the 10-10 date of the Million Man / Mama's March, which I'm super excited. Wendy, can you say hi really quick?
Hi, everybody.
Okay, so now we're just really going to get started quickly. Wendy Silvers has requested for her meeting tonight, one of the best things that we had for SB 277 and defeating it and the other bills in California was the fact that Wendy took it upon herself to have a meeting from the very beginning, the second she heard about the bills, and she opened up her home to everybody that was interested in being part of the solution. So a lot of the strength that's come out of LA has come from us being able to meet up every Tuesday, see people face to face, put Facebook profiles with families. It's really been huge. And one thing that I would definitely suggest everybody do moving forward, now that we have this referendum moving forward, now that we have it probably going to be on the ballot in November to be voted on, and people will need to be educated that it's a vote no on SB 277, start having these meetings every week and invite people that need to understand what's going on. That would be something that every little group of people should have one place that they do that, if I were to think of one simple thing to do. So now, Tim, you're gonna watch me go through a non-tweeter, because people call it Twitterer until they learn it's a tweeter. Because I was not a tweeter when I met you and I started working on the hashtag CDC Whistleblower. So this is my attempt to educate people what you've learned, and then some of the vocabulary that I actually made up so we could all be on the same page. So this is an extension of Trends and Tips, which everyone can go to YouTube and just type in TAT Tips, TATIPS, and see 174 of these, all of which should be very helpful. So the first most important thing that I have always learned for people is that if you don't have a grasp of the same vocabulary and you're not using the same words to mean the same things, you waste a ton of time. People are never on the same page. Mistakes are made. Like right now, we're going to have thousands of people out there getting signatures on a petition, and there's a lot of vocabulary that's going to go with that. And if we're all immediately on the same page, we make fewer mistakes and everything's faster. And the same is true for Twitter. So I want to talk about, my wheelhouse has always been this concept of a landing page. I've been using the word landing page for about 10 years now. And what I've always meant by landing page, and what I would train my doctors that I work with that try to help heal some of these vaccine-injured kids, is that you need a place in cyberspace where you can send people to continue the conversation you don't have time to have when you're on an elevator with them. For example, we have be1less.com, which is the letter B, the number 1, less.com, which was designed for us on Twitter to be able to have a conversation on an elevator with a pregnant woman and say, oh my gosh, I see you're pregnant, congratulations. I have 3 kids that are teenagers. The whole vaccine thing is crazy right now. Best website ever I found was be1less.com. Oh, have a great day, be1less.com. And you just were able to extend that conversation into a landing page that then you designed to talk to that specific market. A pregnant woman or a soon-to-be mother is a market, and you need a landing page just for them. And so Be1 Less was designed to do that. Okay, so now the other thing that's super important is the concept of hashtags. And I know we have about 100 people who have watched our show religiously, and we apologize to some of those people who lost track of the shows and we had some technical difficulties. We're going to be able to fix all that now. But we've complained relentlessly about hashtags. And now I'd like to take a moment, instead of complain about it, I'd like to explain it in a way that you'll never make a mistake again. A hashtag, and that's what this little thing right here is nothing more than placing whatever it is you present to Twitter in a file folder. It puts it in a specific file folder. That's all a hashtag does. Now let me tell you about some of the features that go with putting something in a file folder. For example, one of the things you can do if you carry the hashtag concept over to Twitter is do something that we did, which was we started the hashtag SB277 calendar, and we started marking on Twitter and on Facebook all the different events that all of our legislators were going to. And we had a team of people that would go in and put hashtag SB277 calendar. We had a team of people that would go and look for those hashtags, because you just simply put in your query bar hashtag SB277 calendar, and everybody who marked events, it would all come up in a stream, and then that goes directly to a third person who would put it on the calendar, which is calendarwiz.com/SB277, which give us a couple more days, and we're going to have that back up and running the way it was during all of SB277. So that's how you can use a hashtag like a Post-it note. And you can do that on Facebook, and you can do that on Twitter, you can do it on Instagram. Whatever social media you use, you can use a hashtag. But even more importantly is now Google. How would you describe that, Tim? Let me have you jump in and describe what Google has done with hashtags over the last 2 months that has made our life joyous.
Well, Google is tracking them, and it's just doing search engine optimization, so it shows up on Google searches a lot more.
So what started happening with the hashtag is we had all these thousands of memes that were circulating that we would find on Twitter, and then we wouldn't be able to find them again. They would be lost in the Twitter sphere. Well, now Google is collating all of those hashtags, so you can, for example, search hashtag Hear Us and get all the memes associated with this movement of what we're doing. So the other thing that I'm going to talk to Michelle, who's at Vile News, because I didn't realize she didn't really understand this when I tried to explain the breadth of what Twitter was capable of. And it's like a daily news feed. When you have all of your people surrounding around one hashtag, and we have that. We have hashtag Hear Us, which is in perpetuity, which means that 24 hours a day, you can see rolling content that's like a news source for you. So what it becomes is your daily news. If you're involved in this project, the referendum for SB277, legal challenges, education, whatever floats your boat in the world of health freedom, the hashtag Hear Us is going to be your ability to, and like I always know what's going on faster than everybody else because I'm always monitoring the hashtag that we're trying to populate. So I always know exactly what's going on. And so your job, if you really want to help with the Twitter campaign, is to keep track of hashtag Hear Us for 2 reasons. 1, you always are up to date on exactly what's happening. And number 2, you can simply go there to retweet, adding the names of bigger followers, which I'll be getting to right now.
Let me say, number 3,
yes,
number 3 would be the hashtag filters out the noise. One of the biggest complaints about Twitter is it's just a lot of noise, a lot of things going on. So once you start looking solely at your hashtag, all the rest of the garbage gets cut out of there. You know, we get a few spammers in there in between, but most of the garbage is gone. So then you're solely looking at the source that you want to see and populate that. And then other people will see it when they just kind of float in and float out. So what we do is build this solid stream that's there that goes out and educates everybody.
And that particular role and that vocabulary is it's our anchor. So you need to think of hashtag Hear Us as our anchor. It started with hashtag CDC whistleblower, and then we went to hashtag SB277 that we married to hashtag mine just for the purpose of what he's talking about, which was to filter hashtag SB277 married to hashtag mine in a way that we were able to filter to just what we wanted to retweet, to our Jim Carreys, to our CNN News. So that's what the word marry means. Right now, we're taking our anchor which is hashtag hear us. We are marrying it back to hashtag SB277, because as soon as we get the signatures for the referendum, then we're going to need to be able to educate people on hashtag SB277, which is exactly where everybody will be talking about what's going on with the referendum from both sides. So that's what marry to hashtag means. It just filters it more. We're not really using hashtag mine right now because we no longer need it because we have hashtag hear us. So now the other one is a handle. Hey, who are you on Twitter? You can say, what's your handle on Twitter? And Wendy would say, I'm
at Million Mamas at Wendy Silvers, or at Wendy Silvers.
At Wendy Silvers or at Million Mamas.
Yes.
So Tim is at Tanner's Dad. One of our big tweeters is at CES Day. So that's what a handle is. So you can know the vernacular. So a tweet, can you explain, Tim, what is the ideal tweet? We taught people for months and months and months. There are 5 things to the ideal tweet. Can you go over those?
The ideal tweet has your anchor hashtag, your landing page where you're directing people, which is a reproducible, meaningful link to something. A tweet will go a lot further if there's a picture that's involved in it, which we usually call a meme. Then we ask people to do something. We have some sort of action item. And then finally, we ask people to tag somebody with 15 to 45 million followers. That kind of makes your tweet have a lot more life, because then if somebody's searching for Jim Carrey or stumbles across Jim Carrey, then that's who you're going to reach, a lot more people outside of the audience that you're generally going to educate more people. Plus it gives, if you do all those 5 things, I've had tweets that come back to me from 6 years ago that I tweeted 6 years ago with that format, and then that comes back around in 2015 that people somehow found again.
Well, and the biggest thing with the tweet that I think people need to understand is, if you do these 5 things that Tim taught all of us how to do, it's got a life stream all of its own. And as long as we're trying to educate the world about the reality of the research that is available for them to understand about vaccines in real terms, where it's a real research, that tweet never goes away. It will always be available for somebody to utilize. So the other thing that I really want people to understand was a huge part of the 2 billion impressions for CDC Whistleblower was that all of our memes that we found floating out on the Twitter sphere had something called the TinyURL.com. And the reason why the TinyURL was so valuable was because there was never anything that we were tweeting that didn't have the reference for what was ever said on the meme. So the people that would retweet and the people that were making memes were all very formulaic in their approach, that no one's going to ever be able to read anything in the CDC whistleblower hashtag. They can't go directly to the reference and read it for themselves. So the tinyurl.com, now there's about 4,000 tinyurls. About half of them are currently available at b1less.com, the letter B, the number 1, less.com. Within a couple weeks, probably all 4,000 will be there. But it allowed for Twitter to become a tool for floating billboards that had the references embedded in them. They could never separate the visual stimulus from the reference. So you didn't have people coming back and saying, oh, what's this you're saying about DNA and autism? That's just such crap. Nobody believes that. They never did that because the reference was always embedded in the meme. So that was huge. And one of the other things that I would love for people to start doing in these campaigns and in their Facebook pages is create a tiny URL for even stuff within your own groups. Like right now, Awake has a thread that was initiated where they're talking about the pros and cons of the referendum because they wanted an open place to do that. And then somebody said, well, what about an initiative? Does it conflict? Does it this?
Right.
And they said, wow, we really need to talk about an initiative on a whole new post, but they need to be able to reference that new post at the point where they say, no, we're not going to talk about that here. Well, the way you can do that is initiate that new thread on Facebook with a photo. And then when you click on that photo, it gives you the URL at the top. You copy that URL, and then you make it a TinyURL, and then you put that so they can remember it. Like tinyurl.com/awake initiative convo or whatever is available. And then it's all going, so you don't get anybody lost within your Facebook groups. I managed a Facebook group of about 250 for about 9 months, and we had incredible success just keeping track of the information. And I'd love to see more of these groups utilize pictures that way. So the meme we just talked about, all a meme is it's a visual billboard. The definition of meme has actually shifted since we got to 2 billion impressions on Twitter, because no one's ever done that. And it morphed the definition of a meme from being a stagnant visual, blip that didn't have any landing page or anything to go with it, to something that's vibrant and can carry forever, because the information you wanted them to have is embedded in the meme. Can you talk a little bit about the basic rules of followers and following so that people understand the nature of how to follow people and what the value of their tweets are if they don't have many followers? Can you go into that a little bit, Tim?
Well, basically, Twitter has changed the rules over the years of how many people you can follow, when you can follow, how often you can follow, and things like that. And so it becomes more difficult to get over 2,000 follow to follow more than 2,000 people. But basically, what you're looking at is people that are interesting to you with the subject matter that you're interested in. Then you follow them, and then you're going to see their tweets on your timeline. So some people will very selectively follow people, so that if they've got their phone set up that beeps every time that somebody tweets them, it can get rather annoying. Like somebody like me that follows 17,000, 18,000 people, I can't have my phone beeping every 2 seconds. I don't have any notifications set up. Then I have to use hashtags to look at my timeline, unless it's 5 o'clock in the morning when nobody's tweeting. Otherwise, I can't look at my raw timeline.
So one of the ways that you taught me how to use followers is it's really important when you're trying to get your tweets to go out farther with people who have 200,000 followers, 1 million followers, Jim Carrey with 3,000 followers, is you put a few select the group of people that have these super high level of followers on people that you follow, and then you try to interact with them in real time. Like if Jen Elfman gets on there and she's someone you're following, it will come up in your timeline. You can say, she just talked about how great it was to go to the beach. And you say, hey, we missed you at the SB 277 referendum. Have you checked out vote no, SB277.org? And she will favorite it because she's right there on Twitter following her own tweets. That's one thing that you taught me. The other thing that you taught me is, depending on the purpose of your Twitter account, like the Twitter account that I have was only for retweeting for CDC whistleblower. I didn't care who was following me. I was only trying to do a very specific job in all of this. But what happens, like someone like Wendy, you have a set of followers that expect you're a news feed for them. You're someone they follow because they want to see what you have to say. So you have to be judicious and how often you tag people. But let's go to, where's the thread one? This one. Can you quickly explain this one? Because this is a thread. This is what is called your thread. Like this is the hashtag #HearUsThread, which means this is the most underutilized aspect of Twitter that I've seen. People need to query #HearUs, and you're going to see the best news feed that's ever existed on Twitter for what we're doing. But the other thing, where's the tag? Oh, this. Can you explain? Let me go to this. Tagging people. It's really important that you tag people that have tons and tons of people so that it goes farther. Because when people look through Jim Carrey's thread, they get to see your tweet because he has 2 million followers. So you want it. The other time you want to add more hashtags is hashtags that have tons of traffic, like Black Lives Matter, any of the thing associated with what you're working, like there's probably a Common Core hashtag, there's probably another referendum hashtag, and those you would want to tag to your tweet. What you do not want to do, and this is the biggest mistake we made during the entire SB 277 campaign, is other miscellaneous hashtags dilute your message. It doesn't mean don't ever throw a hashtag out there for a specific project, a specific thing that you think might get some mileage. And if that spaghetti sticks against the wall and people start running with it, then keep that hashtag and keep running. But most of the time, all of these miscellaneous hashtags that ended up out there just created a bunch of noise around whatever the anchor was. Because you've got to remember that hashtags are open source. Nobody owns a hashtag. Nobody gets to dominate a hashtag that doesn't have the followers to make that happen. Can you explain this one really quickly, Tim, the dot concept? Because this one really got confused with our tweeters.
Basically, when you start off with, let's say, @TannersDad, if you start a tweet with @TannersDad, it's coming directly to me, and I'm going to be the person that sees it. So if you put a dot in front of @TannersDad at the very beginning, then all your followers see it. So it just is a way of expanding the depth of the message when you put it out there. People really overthought this and really made a bigger deal of this, and it actually kind of came about when Twitter first started. It was more of an issue. I don't even think it's worth even having a discussion at this point.
Well, the only reason I wanted to discuss it is because we did my TAD tips a long time ago, and it confused some people, so I wanted to straighten it out. The dot simply marks your people. So for someone like Wendy, who has a very specific thread, she would probably want to use the dot for one version of all the best tweets on #HearUs. And then all the other retweets that she's doing, she would leave the single dot out. All one dot does in front of the first is mark your people to receive it as well. And that's all that does.
And the one way I use it is I can actually do 2 tweets with 1 tweet. So if I'm sending a message, let's say to Sam Champion, the weather guy, I'll send one @SamChampion ... and send him the message. And then if I want my people to retweet that, I'll put out another tweet with a dot @SamChampion, and then my people will actually use it and retweet it, and that way. So I actually get 2 tweets out of 1 message.
Okay, and we're almost done here. So lots of confusion, and a lot of it came about, I think, because for CDC Whistleblower, we were going purely for impressions, and the retweeting was a big part of that. But can you explain now the retweet and the quote? I will just say that when you quote someone and you're trying to have the visual be really impactful, it dilutes that because it makes it so small. But other than that, can you explain a retweet and a quote?
A retweet and a quote are basically the same thing. You're rewriting the tweet and sending out it again. The retweet button is the simplest way to do that, and it just does it by itself automatically. Quote is a little bit more complicated because then you have to add some information. With the newer iPhones and the newer versions, you can quote and then put it in, but then it kind of, you don't see the pictures. It just kind of takes their tweet and puts it into a URL. So I almost say the old cut and paste and rewrite a whole new tweet. And that's one of the things that everybody's afraid of, priority and protected source and everything else like that. Everything on Twitter is you're allowed to do that.
It's open source. Anything you see on Twitter, consider it open source. Use it in an article, just reference that you got it from Twitter, and you're off to the races. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say about Twitter trends and tips. But the last thing I would like to say is every single person who's wanting to help SB 277 go away needs to get on Twitter. The people who ended up tweeting for the CDC whistleblower campaign have never had so much fun in their life. It connects everybody in real time. It gives you something to do when you're standing in line at the supermarket. You're just going retweet, retweet, retweet. One of the most important things that people could do at this point is either go to @CES Day, @TannersDad, or at HealthyOwn, OWN, on your phone, scroll to the bottom of all their photos and start retweeting, adding hashtag hear us.
I have to tell my water cooler story though.
Oh, please.
You don't rush up to people at the water cooler and say, don't vaccinate, don't vaccinate, don't vaccinate. You don't run up there and start the conversation like that. With Twitter, remember, we want your passion, we want your heart, we want the magic, but we also want to interact and make friends with people. And so tweeting the same person over and over and over again 100 times, that shouldn't happen.
And what you mean by that is, I'm trying to get to Twitter so we can look at it. For example, let's say people are interacting with Rosie O'Donnell, right? And somebody's like, wow, Rosie's ready to interact. And all of a sudden people see at Rosie and everybody's suddenly tweeting every single tweet to Rosie. And it's like she's getting spammed because there's so much activity. And that's the part that you need to try to keep track of. So anything else that you want to say before let me get over here and I'm going to file new tab.
The politeness goes a long way for tweets too. If you take the time to put please and thank you and you're welcome and things like that, that makes tweets go a lot further.
Like PLZRT is like the simplest request to make to people. We're being spammed a little bit by lose weight fast. By the way, lose weight fast, you need to just step back. We're trying to save the world and you're trying to, and what makes you think we're fat anyway? So just go away, lose weight fast. I'm over it. Okay. So this is an example of what the thread looks like. Oh, isn't that cute? Okay. So this is some of the thread, and we've discovered that this vote no, SB 277, just goes directly to the referendum page on how to volunteer, which is so this is the landing page we want for people who are asking about the referendum. You can just send them to Twitter to hashtag hear us and vote no, SB277.org. It goes directly there. There's tons of great, I'm over you. We're gonna, it's not good. Yeah, dude, but that's the best compliment in the world. If you have a hashtag that someone thinks they can sell stuff on, then that means they're doing really well. I am just quickly gonna go to Candace Sestave. She's one of our team for TAD Tips. And I'm gonna go over to her photos page like I asked for you to do. And I'm gonna just start showing you how beautiful her thread is, just chock full of visuals that you can tweet. This is all referendum stuff, it looks like. So she's obviously resonating with the referendum stuff, and she's tweeting that stuff out. So you can just go to her page and say, I really like one that's so pretty. And I'm just going to retweet that one because I don't want to make it smaller. But that's just going to go to my people. So she's just chock full of stuff to retweet. Anything else, Tim, before we close up and say, see you on Twitter?
No, I just come on out and follow me. And if you have any questions, if you're following me, I'll follow you and we'll direct message and I'll help you through it.
And Tim is kind of our representative for the folks who do the dad tip stuff. So he's the one to get a hold of at Tanner's Dad. We love you and we wish you health, and may we all work together to save the world. See you on Twitter.